with the hydrant break.
Thank you.
And across the front of the site, the utility poles actually are, I think they're on the site somewhere up around here.
Well, I guess that begs the question, are they going to continue to use that access point?
They're going to continue to use the power lines. The access point coming out and heading to the west, no, they're not going to be using that.
Okay.
Let me just go point to it to make sure we're talking about the same thing. I believe you're talking about this area right in here.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not going to be using that, no. One of the other things that we asked, I tried to get in touch with Adam today, but I know didn't know he was working from home, but one of the things we wanted to be able to do was have the ability for our traffic engineer to communicate directly with the review traffic engineer to provide them with this information, for example, that we provided you tonight to make sure that the traffic engineer who's doing the peer review has all the information that they need to basically understand where we started and where we ended up on the project. So we had that question, which we normally would ask Adam, but since Adam's here, I guess I'll ask him now.
I have a problem with that.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. Mr. Allison, did you want to circle back to
I did,
clearing that?
actually. So it's good that you've got an agreement with the landowners, with the corporate owners that use the land, and DPW, but who is going to be doing this work on the clearing to grade of the vegetation on the corner?
It's my understanding that it's Keating, not the family, the operation.
It looks like a good portion of it's in the right-of-way.
Right, so essentially the two parties have agreed that they would work together to get that work done. The actual logistics of how that gets done, but the triggering point would be, for starting that work would be when the building permit's issued, and it has to be completed before occupancy. So that gives them enough time to get things done. They're definitely going to need a police detail when they do that one.
Well, my comment, well, I guess a question, I wouldn't expect it would take more than a few days.
Probably not.
And I guess I'm wondering if that could be done immediately, regardless, and then have the review traffic engineer have the ability to see the result.
I don't know if that would be possible. I think that there's costs associated with that are tied to the ownership of the land. They don't own the land right now. So for them to expend money on tree clearing and physical construction work prior to owning the property, I don't think that they would have any interest in doing that.
Well, I mean, just looking at the grades from the contours, I'm not sure if you're not going to be doing any earthwork at all, just removing vegetation. You know, this says 100 foot, and that puts the reservoir road right away at 60 feet wide, and I don't think that's true.
Well, once again, that on the bottom of corner of that, it says this is a LiDAR plot, and it would need to be verified with additional survey. But this is the intent, is that that's why I used the 20 feet from the edge of pavement, because that we know that parts are in the right of way and parts are on the Keating land. So that's why we said 20 feet from the edge of pavement. So that way there's a clear line if you go out there and measure 20 feet that you know where we're going to.
Sure, and please don't misunderstand, I'm not questioning the intent, I'm questioning the effectiveness.
Well, I think if you look at the pictures and say that vegetation's gone, I think it becomes much more effective. I mean, personally, I think that's the intent. When you drive around, the shrubs are hanging out over the road with a brush.
I would think that's something the traffic engineer can give us a good idea on.
Okay.
Correct, or?
I would assume so.
Well, I mean, from my perspective, it's a difficult situation because the intersection is bad today. Has been for years. Has nothing to do with this project and the applicant's intended use for the property. And they have no ownership of this land, and from my point of view, it's great that they were able to work with the owners and operators of Keating to get an improvement made. You know, all of this work is costly, and they aren't the only ones using the road, so I think any improvement that we can make in that area will certainly help offset the additional traffic. Yeah, I think would be unrealistic to expect the applicant to rebuild an intersection or get into a lot of dirt work. You know, this is a pretty simple, straightforward fix, and will certainly make things better.
They already said there's no dirt work involved, though.
That's what I'm saying, is, you know, they're clearing the vegetation, which will have undoubtedly a positive impact on that area. So.
And that's the intent. The intent is that, similar to the sound information, we wanted to make sure that the board was aware that we heard you, and we went out and take a look, even though this is kind of an off-site, far away from our project element. The stuff near our site for site views, et cetera, in the right-of-way, we get that. This kind of, you know, we wanted to take a better look at this and say that, you know, if there's something we can do that makes sense for all of us, then that's what we strive to do with this arrangement. And that's, you know, it was a lot of coordination to get all the parties together in one Zoom call. So that was the intent.
I just want to make sure I understood, when Mr. Allison asked about the drive, the access earlier, you're talking about the Keating access drive, that's going to be discontinued?
One of the picture. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one in the picture?
Not this drive, that's
Okay.
on this plan.
So this-
Okay, that one. Okay, gotcha.
Right now, if you look at this, is all paved in here.
Yep.
And so this is the street, and there's, you know, they had their stuff here, they were going back and forth here, back in the future, or back in the past.
Okay.
Okay? So that section of it will not, they will not come onto our site and take a left onto their site.
Okay.
There won't be any access permitted from our site to their site.
Okay.
Correct. Anything else?
Any other questions for Mr. Hannigan?
And so I think at this point, we're just waiting for the peer review relative to traffic to be completed, and
And the new plans, obviously, the new site
right.
plans.
So we're not anticipating any plan changes from traffic, but I think we're best to
You're going to wait.
wait until that gets done, and hopefully for the next meeting, that'll all be resolved, and we'll have a final set of plans for consideration.
And some additional specifications on the wall.
We'll get that to you ahead of time, correct?
Do we have any public comment? I don't think we have any in the room. Adam, does anybody have
There's
their?
nothing on Zoom. No, there's
Okay.
people, but no one's got their hand raised.
Okay. Oh. It looks like Mr. Torgensen had his hand up, maybe? Or,
Not that I can see here.
Probably somebody's cursor.
oh,
I did not have my hand.
okay.
I
That
see
might
a
be a
little hand,
cursor.
too. I see a little hand.
All right.
Oh,
Sorry, my cursor discipline's off.
All right, so we will look to continue. Our next meeting is October 25th due to Columbus Day. Does
Correct.
that work?
we had anticipated that. Yeah.
Okay.
You let us know at the last meeting that was going to happen.
All right.
So but that should give us enough time to get the traffic reviews done and vetted and be able to come back at the next meeting and hopefully have all those things addressed.
Well, I certainly appreciate the effort that's been made on the screening and sound end of things, because I know that residents on the back side of the project, on the southerly side of Lake Shirley, were very concerned, and it's nice to see that those
We wanted
concerns were
to take a proactive
addressed.
approach.
So, thank you.
Yeah, I also appreciate the efforts you've made in that regard. I think it will certainly help and hopefully, alleviate their concerns. So
do
I
have a
would,
hand up now, Mr. Chair.
sorry, Adam?
Okay.
We do have a hand up now.
Okay. So if Steve's iPad could go ahead and make your comment.
Yes, hi, Steve Bean, 27 Fire Road 15. Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand. I just wanted to say I was at the last meeting and I had a lot of concerns. My property is obviously on Fire Road 15, abutting the train tracks, and I appreciate all the work that was done. And it was very well described in the videos and the pictures with the satellite imagery, and I really appreciate it. That's really all I wanted to say. I appreciate all the work that was done.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I would make a motion to continue to October 25th at 6:35 PM.
A second?
Any discussion on continuing? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is Tanner.
No, we did approve the A and R plan, right?
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah, and we'll
You endorsed.
sign those.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Excellent.
We don't want to send it with them? Don't we usually?
I don't think they really need it. They need site plan approval anyway.
Do you want to ask? Bill?
Bill. Do you want to
Take the Mylar, do you need the Mylar? Yeah.
Okay. Our next appointment is for 360 Flat Hill Road for the Scenic Road hearing, which was continued from August 23rd.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear?
Now we can.
Yeah, sorry, I'm about to take the field for my game, so I do gotta get going.
What?
I was hoping to get all the
Oh, I
stuff
think,
done before I had to take the field, but
What is that? Oh, okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and step up, and you're here with the Scenic Road.
Thank you folks for having us. Mark Elbag here on behalf of the applicant, Ken Mattson of Mattson Homes. This first hearing is for the scenic byway driveway site plan, which I believe has been continued a few times now. As you can see here, there's been some changes as a result of last meeting. The driveway on Lot 1 was reconfigured to avoid a significant street tree, and the electric services and poles have been added to the plan so that you can see how each house will be served with electric. I believe that was kind of the bulk of the comments and the bulk of the revisions. Other than that, the plan is largely unchanged. And as you can see, we're trying to do everything to minimize disturbance to the wall and street trees.
We're specifically talking about the scenic road right now, correct?
Correct. Yep. I've got a question on Lot 1. That's going to be underground, coming from utility pole 23?
Yes, that is proposed as underground. We're trying to minimize the amount of poles. Believe it to be a kind of a better look, better finished product at the end. With a very minimal break in the wall, I think they can do that with just a few feet, a couple buckets wide at most. Break the wall and then put the wall back.
My concern there is that the oak tree that's shown on the plan is the reason that we asked you to move the driveway further towards Watt Street. And by moving the driveway, you certainly help protect the tree, but now you're just trenching on the other side of the tree. So I feel like we're saving on one side and then just trenching on the other, where Lot 2 is getting overhead electric, so,
2 and 3, I would assume.
We'd certainly look into possibly overhead there. I believe Ken had some discussions with Unitil. You know, it's kind of a catch-22, because on one you might be trenching, but on the other you might have to take a large piece of the canopy to get the overhead to work there.
yeah.
You know, that's an existing utility pole 23, so we're not proposing anything new with the pole, just the service. Ken, if you want to speak to that.
Ken Mattson. I guess I didn't get it communicated to Mark. I tried to, and I didn't see these plans till now. But that's what I was indicating to him, that I wanted to move down to pole 24 with the underground
Okay.
and come in from right there and then over to the house.
Underground from 24 in the emails, I thought.
Okay. Well, and the other thing that we had discussed when we did the site visit was bringing overhead into Lot 2 and then potentially being able to run the underground to Lot 1 off of that. In other words, land the pole like on the lot line.
Yes, no, I know exactly,
Look at
yes.
this.
And I guess
Right here,
that was, I met with the,
24.
Oh, okay.
So your other plan set shows it going from pole 24.
yeah, okay, this is,
So the plan set for
the site
the...
plan shows it to 20,
Yeah, the site plan for
I
the
never got-
stormwater shows it there.
carried over to that plan then. I guess that, I met with the power company out there and we went over it all, and in the end, the main thing we were moving, I think we were trying to save the big oak tree up there. And so then we, it all of a sudden dawned on us, well, we could actually go underground from this pole to that house.
Yep.
And that was where, I guess, the switch came from.
Yep. And as it's depicted on the site plan, the underground runs parallel to the road and then cuts up along the driveway, but theoretically, depending on how everything works out, you could simply go straight in.
That was another change, is it?
That would be preferred, is to go straight in. We don't want to run parallel to
Along
the
the
road
road.
in front of the
Okay.
wall, because
I
that
didn't
would,
want to do that.
yeah, that would
Yep.
wreck too much vegetation.
Well, not only that, but you're putting your utilities in the right of way. So, but I guess, I mean, the simple condition is that the electric service for Lot 1 and Lot 2 shall be run from utility pole 24. And whether they go underground with it or overhead, doesn't matter, at least it
Yeah.
protects that one tree.
Yeah, I think that could work well. And still give Unitil a little bit of flexibility. Because none of this is, none of this is a final design, it's just what Unitil
Yep.
conveys to us.
And what is it that we're actually approving? We're approving the plan for the scenic road, the site plan for a scenic road? But it's not really site, because it's, yeah. so what would-
You're approving a scenic road
Okay, so
permit.
it's just scenic road permit.
Correct.
Yep.
So it's for the removal of no trees and the disturbance of the stone wall.
Yep.
The mitigation of the break in the stone wall being filled to continue to retain the scenic road quality.
Yep.
And it sounds like right now the condition is that lots 1 and 2 will be served from utility pole 24. And if it is done underground, any disturbance to the wall would be reclamated to retain the original character of the wall.
Yep.
Well, I just want to clarify, Adam, you had said no trees to be cut. There are trees that are going to be cut.
I was under the impression that there are no trees within the right-of-way, which is what the scenic road law governs, that are being removed.
Well,
The trees that are depicted on the plan as being removed are on
Are all
their
within
property.
the applicant's private property, which is not dictated to be
Okay.
part of
Yep.
scenic road law.
okay.
So the way this is showing the power underground, regardless of the snafu with Lot 1, so Lot 4, it's showing it coming straight from the utility pole through the stone wall and then running parallel with the driveway, so that's going to disturb the wall.
Correct.
Yeah, I think the idea is that it's visually better to have it underground long-term rather than additional poles. So I think the trade-off is if we break the wall now and it gets repaired, in the long term, it's a better look for the whole roadway.
The two lots adjacent to it
Because
have
it
poles going down.
limits the overhead poles. Because there is always the possibility of Unitil serving it with a pole, but to do that, you have to cut the canopy.
What we have in mind is actually the only overhead we have is the common driveway to go back to a pole, and then from that pole further back in the lot, we split with underground to each house. If we look at all of them, they have actually, we're going underground through the stone wall, other than for lot 2 and 3.
So my understanding
Yeah,
is,
so as proposed, there's 3 breaks in the wall here. Or if we eliminate lot 1, there'll now be 2 breaks in the wall, lot 4 and lot 5.
so there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, and you're filling in a hole.
Yeah, I'm seeing 4 breaks in the wall.
Well, lot 1, we just said we'll go off a utility pole 24 possibly and be served by the pole on lot 2 and lot 3.
Right, but there's
Which-
still a break
Well,
for the
this was,
driveway.
There's possibly a break, but then the other breaks for power would be on lot 4 and lot 5.
Oh, you're talking about just because there's obviously
Yes.
there's breaks for the driveway.
No, I'm talking about just the
It's
power.
actually 6 breaks.
Yeah, if you count the driveways. I was just trying to clarify in case you missed the line on lot 5 as well. Just because the power is not clearly
Yeah.
shown, it's a little
4
light
of the
colored.
breaks wouldn't be replaced. The
Right,
other 2
right,
would.
Right, the other 2 would. Or potentially 3, if a break is needed to put that trench in to bring the underground in.
Yep.
Correct.
I had a question about Lot 5, because that's the lot that has the existing opening in the wall. And I know the abutter across the street brought up the issue, and we talked about it on the site visit, about instead of opening up the wall in another location and then filling that in, about running the driveway through that existing opening. And I think the concern was something to do with the septic, but in reviewing the site plan, it appears to me that the septic's out of the way. So,
I think he did say something about the reserve, but the testing
Yeah,
for the reserve is right
that-
there.
Yeah, that lot's very tight with some differing soil conditions. So between the wetlands, the need for the septic location area, the reserve area, and then the well 100 feet away from both, it really limits how we lay out that lot.
But, Mr. Mattson, you're okay with updating the plan? It seems to me like the site plan for the scenic road just doesn't accurately reflect what the real intention was.
Yeah, I have no problem with updating. I think it just didn't get done. It was intended on my part
Yep.
to do that, to accommodate that big tree up there without digging by it. To move down for the service lot 1 down to pole 24, and then we'd go in with underground with that and up into,
Yeah, and if there needs to be a break in the wall there, I would like that depicted on the plan as well, to put the underground utility in.
that can be added to the plan. I don't see any
Yeah,
problem
if you
with
believe that
Yeah,
it's going to
that on
require a
there.
break, that's all. I just,
through the wall,
yeah.
we will,
Yeah, I could,
It would be the same condition, that it be backfilled with, to retain the character of the wall.
Yeah.
But I just would like it depicted on the plan, and maybe with a note, similar to what you have in here, the break and stone wall to be filled, so.
yeah, I don't think that's a problem.
no, that's not a
We gotta
problem.
add that, we gotta change that on there anyway for you.
Right.
So, I don't see that as a...
Other than that, I don't have any additional concerns.
Okay. Mr. Allison, or?
I'm still unhappy about the existing break in the wall, but it's obviously not going to affect the reserve, because the house is not going to move if they have to build the reserve, so that could easily be the drive under there. I guess I'm fine. This well can certainly move.
Yeah, well, it's actually not on this plan at all, but on the stormwater plan, we do have to show the reserve in that area. That's where the testing was.
Right.
That wall has to be moved too.
I'm sorry?
And the well has to be moved as
Well, we're gonna
well.
have to move that down to the left down in there to keep it 100 feet from that reserve.
So the well on this plan is not correctly depicted?
No.
No, because the reserve area is actually right there.
It looks like you're gonna have to go towards the intersection of Watt and Flat, then, correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's where we're gonna have to
So-
slide that well way down there.
Yep.
And that wouldn't be in a driveway.
No.
Sorry.
So you saying that you need to move the well anyway, and so it wouldn't be
Well,
an
we need
issue to use
Don't
the?
have it showing that. We had a test pit up where we have the septic, where we want to put it.
Yeah.
And then the other test pit happens to be down right off it's off the 100-foot buffer right there on that left side of the house. And,
So the plan we're looking at shows the reserve test pit area off the back of the house, not the left side.
Under the stockpile area on the individual plan.
no,
Where are you saying the reserve area? 'Cause I'm not
The
seeing-
reserve is actually,
Right? But if you
I have it on the septic plan. The reserve is actually
If you go a few
right about where that well is. It's outside the 100-foot buffer, and it's 20 feet off the foundation to meet Title V setbacks, and 10 feet off the front wall. If you, this helps. If this helps, the reserve is going to end up being here. We need 20 feet off the foundation. We kept it outside the 100-foot buffer, and it'll be 10 feet back from the wall to meet all the Title V setbacks.
So what about,
And the well is actually going to go down here. That's been updated on the septic plan, but not on the stormwater plan. So I do need to update that.
but you need to have soil testing in the area for the reserve, don't you? Are you gonna do
Yes.
additional, or is there some that's been done that's
There
not
is, yeah.
shown?
No, that
In
there's,
fact, all our testing at one point was down there, and then when we did the wetlands mapping, the wetlands came in further than we had anticipated, and so there was only one test pit outside of the wetlands. And
So the reserve area is not where it's proposed on this plan. It's moving
that's correct.
down closer to the wall.
Yep.
Okay.
There's really no indication of a reserve area, it's just the
It's just the testing,
that's
right,
shown, yeah.
right. And where is the well moving to?
Down closer to the intersection.
So
That'll
it's
be,
going to move to the corner of the property, basically?
it'll need
Yeah,
to, it needs to be 100 feet away from the reserve and the actual septic. So to get
You're going to
that,
be, but you'll be outside the 100-foot wetland buffer, so you're going to tuck
Right.
it into that corner?
correct.
And there's a septic and a well across Watt Street as well.
Yeah, have you located, well, I mean, that's outside of us, but you've located other wells on the,
Yeah.
so I think we've got to continue this because we don't have accurate plans.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I mean, at this point, we need to,
Well, if I could, I mean,
Yeah.
the plan you're looking at isn't really the driveway plan. The only...
No, we were
the o-
looking to see if we could relocate the driveway for Lot
Right.
5.
No, the only part of the application is the actual...
This is the driveway plan, correct? Right, but this is not correct because we're not using pole 23 to supply power to Lot 1. We're using pole number 24.
Correct. Yep.
So this isn't correct either.
we can't get approval with the exception that when we bring the new plan in, get the plan into Marjorie or with the changes?
Or perhaps just condition that the power for Lot 1 be served off of utility pole 24. That could be an acceptable condition as well.
Well, then we'd have conflicting conditions, because one of the conditions is it has to conform to the plan that was presented. And I suppose we could have with the exception of, but
well, I guess from a work process, you really can't move forward until you have a stormwater permit anyway. You can't clear trees, you can't disturb ground.
Right.
So that's really the bottleneck in the whole thing. And I would anticipate that you've got a fair amount of work to do before you start cutting in all the driveways anyway. And so, I mean, I'm not trying to steer you in one direction or the other, but I think at the end of the day, depending on how we make out with the stormwater stuff, which clearly we have some updates to do to that plan as well. And with the stormwater, we tend to close the public hearing and then look at a draft decision, so that decision isn't on the table tonight anyway.
And from a work process, the board needs to sign the scenic road permit anyway.
Correct.
So what I would recommend is if the board thinks there's updates needed to the plan, we have a lengthy time between now and our next meeting. I can work with Marjorie to create approval documents for both applications. And at the next hearing, if the board is satisfied, it sounds as if the board is mostly satisfied with the scenic road portion of it, with the exception of the graphic depiction of the plan. And if you're satisfied for the most part with stormwater, then you can keep the hearing open so you can take any last bit of testimony or accept any plans, you can close it and have a draft document to work off of for issuing the approval and signatures at the next meeting.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any issues with that. I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't think that we can issue an approval tonight. Once the plan is corrected, I don't have a problem with the scenic road plan. But as Adam said, we need to have the decision. So I think we need to continue both of these and potentially have the decisions ready for the 25th or 27th?
25th.
25th.
That won't be a problem.
So we can sign the permits on the 25th.
Yeah, that could work well.
All right.
I would encourage you to hear any, I know there's a couple of lots that were updated, and I know Jeff is there to provide anything from his perspective on where the applicant is with the stormwater permit process.
Right, which is the next.
Yep.
So at this point, I'll entertain a motion to extend, continue the public hearing just for the scenic road, because that's...
I would make a motion to continue the hearing for the scenic road for 360 Flat Hill Road to October 25th at 6:35 PM.
Second.
Agenda to include possible decision.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is Mr. Torgensen still with us?
No, he's going.
Okay. And I for myself.
I'm the only disembodied voice.
So moving on to 360 Flat Hill Road, the stormwater management permit, which was all set. Continued from August 23rd. So,
So in your package, you should have a revised calculation book and a revised set of plans. Along with a comment letter from Graves Engineering, Jeff Walsh.
Yeah.
Jeff, if you wouldn't mind stepping right up. There we go.
Good evening again, board members. For the record, my name is Jeff Walsh. I'm with Graves Engineering, peer review consultant for this board. We conducted our first peer review and issued a peer review letter on August 23rd. Revised plans and stormwater management information was sent to us. We reviewed it and we issued a second letter on September 23rd. The first review letter, there was more minor types of issues, information that the regulations require that need to be on the plan, one of which it seems like nitpicky, but I always comment on it if it's required by any board, it's telephone number on the plans. That way when the town officials, whoever's out there doing this inspection and there's erosion control problems and no one to be found, you get the information right there with you. So that's why I always comment on that. Seems ticky-tacky, but nevertheless, I wanted the board and the applicant's team to understand why. Aside from that, was missing not missing information, but some of the minutia that's required by the regulations that needed to be there, with the exception of the NRCC rainfall data. The new regulations require NRCC, which is the most strict rainfall amounts, and the hydrology calculations were revised to use that data and were in order. So with my second letter of September 23rd, everything was in order from my perspective on the stormwater. Yep.
That's what it seems like.
And if any questions or concerns or discussion, I'd be glad to give you my opinions, thoughts, answers, whatever they may be.
I guess I have a question for the applicant. You've mentioned that there's changes on Lot 5, where the reserve area is, where the well is. Are there any changes on any other lots from the plans that we have?
No, I don't believe so. I think just that electric service, and the fact that the reserve area is not shown on the stormwater plan would be the only change, although I don't know that the reserve area really needs to be on the stormwater plan, per se. But, you know, it certainly wouldn't hurt.
In regards to Lot 5, could you point out where your erosion control measures are, and will that be updated? You indicated you're going to be moving the well. I just want to make sure that there's a lot of wetlands on that lot, and if you're going to be trenching closer to the wetlands, that those erosion controls are in the appropriate areas.
Yeah, we are, I'm showing the erosion controls just on the 100-foot setback there, but you are correct. We'll have to extend those down to incorporate the new well area down toward the intersection.
Okay.
Another question about Lot 5. What's the setback requirement for the septic system and the contactor chambers?
That, off the top of my head, I believe is 25 feet. Or
I'm reluctant to cite the number because
No.
I don't want to give you bad information. I can tell you, dry wells and foundations need to be 10 feet away for what that's worth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's just something to be aware of.
yeah,
If you
I
get
think
the
Title
chamber up
5
front.
calls it for a drainage structure. I thought it was 25. But regardless, I'll take a look at that.
So the Coltech chambers are addressing the water coming off of the house,
Correct.
the roof, the gutter
The roof
water.
line, yeah.
and so on.
Correct.
Okay.
So I just want to make sure in the decision that we, note the maintenance of the rain gardens. And as I said before, I think it's important that the rain gardens be referenced in the decision so that the homeowners buying the homes understand the importance of the maintenance of the rain gardens.
And since your comment at last meeting, the stormwater report's been updated, and the operation and maintenance plan has been drastically changed.
Okay. I just want to
It
make
was more
sure,
of an It was more of an educational packet,
yeah.
and I've since changed it to more of a formal plan, since it will be referenced in the deeds.
Okay,
So it does give formal requirements of the
Yeah.
homeowner.
No, I appreciate the presence of the rain gardens. I just want to make sure that the homeowners understand that they're not just decorative and they can't remove them.
Or they get filled in.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Exactly. So other than that, I don't have any other concerns. So if, Adam, I'm assuming you could have a decision ready for the 25th?
Yeah.
Do you have any other concerns, Mr. Allison?
Not that I haven't already voiced. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
So we'll continue this hearing as well to October 25th.
I do want to mention the memo from the show.
Oh, yes, we should talk about that.
Okay.
Have you received a copy of the letter from the Neshoba Board of Health?
Yes.
It was addressed to Matson Homes?
I have.
You did? Okay, so that would also have to be a condition of our permit.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we want to, should we read it for the record
That was blue also.
or not?
We can certainly
Paraphrase it?
read it into the record.
I would say that it doesn't need to be its own condition. It would fall under the abided by requirements of other boards, commissions, state, local, and federal that you have in your standard conditions.
Yeah, I would disagree. I think there's two conditions that they've specifically said. I don't see any harm in incorporating them along with the regular statement. And the two conditions the Board of Health is recommending is that soil samples representative of the site must be tested for arsenic, lead, and the synthetic organic chemical pesticides. Water testing for the wells to serve the proposed homes will include synthetic organic chemical. So I don't see any problem with putting that as a condition, so that way it's not overlooked.
And just for anybody that's not aware, that is simply because it was an existing apple orchard.
I guess my concern is that I have people working on it already.
You need to,
Ken Matson from Matson Homes. My concern is that I felt like this kind of got dropped on it. I had talked with people, but then all of a sudden, after, just out of the blue, I got the letter. And so I have testing people working on it already. They've contacted the Neshoba Board of Health, Jim Greffey, and he spoke to him, and he sent Jim all the information we had on all the pesticides that had been used. And Jen Greffey, he told Jim, you tell me what we got to have. And so we're held up waiting on Jim. He hasn't been able to get it out of him yet as to what exactly he wants us to do for testing. But my concern is that we're going to get to the next meeting, and I'm not going to have that testing done. And then we're not going to get the sign off on that, so my appeal periods aren't going to start, and it's just continuing, so.
Our condition wouldn't interfere with any of that. Our condition will simply state that this
So
work
it won't
needs to
have
be
anything
done.
to do with our, on the stormwater?
Correct.
Yeah, okay, well, we are working on it.
the only caveat I have, and Jeff, I don't think you've seen this letter, is the last paragraph of the letter says that the test results shall be submitted to the Board of Health, and depending on the levels noted, the board may require a plan from an environmental professional familiar with handling contaminated soil to ensure construction of and residing on the site is done safely. My only concern is that if they have to remove contaminated soil, that may affect stormwater, so I think that may require a de minimis change. So I guess that's a question for Jeff.
If I may, what I'm interpreting from the testing with respect to stormwater, it has to do with the physical construction of the stormwater BMTs, the physical construction on the site, not the design of the BMPs. It's got to do with the handling of the soils during excavation and earth-moving activities. So it wouldn't have a bearing on the design of the stormwater BMPs. It would have this...
If the topography changes, that's my concern. If they remove contaminated soil, the BMPs are based on topography. I'm sorry?
It would just bring in other soil.
Okay, so as long as the topography doesn't change, I guess that's the...
And if the topography, if they opted to change the topography to do that, then they have to come back to
And
this
they would have to
board.
come back.
That's right, that's
In
right.
the event the topography of the site changes drastically due to soil conditions,
Yep.
planning board approval must be sought, something like that. I would just, because this letter specifically talks about soil removal,
Yep.
I want to make sure that they either put it back to the grades that are on the plan you reviewed, or they come back.
Certainly,
Well, I
certainly.
think that building to the approved plan is the foil to that.
I agree
Okay,
with-
this
I
is
agree-
just
agree with Adam.
unusual that we're
Yep.
talking about
Yeah,
potentially removing soil.
yeah. The soil would be removed but it would have to be replaced.
It would have to be replaced.
Yep, absolutely. It's got more to do with construction worker health and safety and coming into contact with the chemicals that would be in the soil once the soil's turned up.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
So our condition would basically be that you need to comply with the requirements of the Board of Health.
Holding up our stormwater permit.
That's not what I'm proposing, no.
No, it's actually done as part of the decision process,
It
so.
would just be a condition of the permit.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I would make a motion, did we already continue?
No.
I would make a motion to continue the hearing for 360 Font Hill Road Stormwater Management Permit to October 25th at 6:35 PM. And on the agenda, it should be noted, review and possible vote to approve.
Second.
Any discussion?
No, thank you, folks. I just wanted to, in case others that aren't at the meeting, if they could fill out the appropriate paperwork in case, so we have a quorum at the next meeting, that'd be helpful.
Very good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I for myself.
Thank you, folks.
Excellent, thank you. Our next public hearing is 97 and 125 Cross Street and 430 and 440 Mulpus Road, which was continued from August 23rd. And we received a letter from Attorney Campobasso relative to this project.
Yeah, unfortunately, Attorney Campobasso had a conflict this evening, and where it was a request to withdraw, I told him that I would take care of it. The applicant has decided to part ways with the engineer that represented them previously. They are hiring a new engineering firm to look at and redesign the project and represent them moving forward. So they're asking for withdrawal without prejudice to allow the new engineering firm adequate time to review and redesign the project.
If I may, I would just like to say that I don't think there would be any prejudice involved at all, because they took all of our comments at the last meeting very well. And I think possibly even better than they did at the meeting now that they're changing engineers. So I myself would not have a problem with that.
Neither would I.
My only concern, and I wish the applicant was here to give us a little bit more detail on this, but my only concern is that I don't see any harm in just continuing this, even if we were to push it out a few months and let them reconfigure. But we have had issues in the past where developers, and not saying that this particular applicant is part of that cycle, but we've had issues where developers will break projects up and do one lot at a time or change ownership and circumvent the stormwater processes by breaking up and minimizing how much disruption. And I just want to make sure that that's not what's going on here.
I don't believe that is the intent. I've spoken with the applicant's potential future engineer. I've spoken with their legal counsel. And I think what they're looking at, I actually had a conversation with their legal counsel last week about how they could do an indefinite continuance with the only requirement being re-advertising and re-notice. And he felt that it was more in his client's interest to withdraw without prejudice. They do intend to come back. Like I said, I spoke with their prospective engineer, and I did express some of the board's concerns with the previous design, and they took that under advisement. And I think this is just a formality on their part rather than having an application that was linked with one engineer hanging out with a midstream alteration. They feel that they are in a better place to sort of come back with a new application as opposed to trying to completely take a left turn in the middle of a current application.
Good.
Mr. Walsh.
I'm hoping to make you a little more comfortable, Mr. Chairman. Section 204-1D, applicability, and it speaks to disturbance of equal to or greater than 1 acre of land, or will disturb less than 1 acre of land, but part of a larger common plan of development or sale that will ultimately disturb equal to or greater than 1 acre of land. So I think you have evidence right now in your file, even if this is set aside, withdrawn, there's evidence here that there was an intent to develop, or if they sell it in pieces, that's your safeguard right there, that even if they came back with three-quarter acre lots, to me, that meets the intent of this, and they would have to file. That's how I see it. And that aside, I think withdrawing and starting with a fresh team, the withdrawal and the new application makes it that much cleaner of a cut versus keeping on the record the former engineer. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Feel better? A little bit. A little bit.
So I would make a motion to accept the withdrawal of 97 and 125 Cross Street and 430 and 440 Malpas Road without prejudice.
That's second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Moving on to 101 Pleasant Street, which was continued from August 23rd. Where
Is
are
anyone
we at
in
with,
attendance?
101 Pleasant, Adam?
Yeah, voices, but I think
That the applicant had requested some zoning interpretations from the building inspector. I have not received any requests for continuance or other communication regarding their existing planning board application.
Well, I have specific concerns regarding the bylaws of the Homeowners Association Trust based on correspondence from town council that I think need to be addressed before we issue a permit.
Certainly.
Has this information been provided to the applicant, or?
Yes, it has.
So, we have a draft of approval, and I'm certainly not ready to go forward with that without receiving revised documents for the Homeowners Association.
Are we under any time clock?
What is the
We
time?
have 60 some odd days.
What does that leave us if we go to October 25th?
Not much.
Give us the 30 ballpark.
Yeah.
I certainly can reach out to the applicant and ask for a signed letter of continuance. And they have been willing and responsive in doing that in the past.
So I would also relay to the applicant that we need to see revised homeowners association documentation.
Adam, do you know if the applicant has seen the language that was incorporated in the email from Attorney Costa?
Yes, I did clip and send the,
Okay.
to them.
All right, so they're aware of our position.
I would expect that they have read it and are at least minimally aware.
All right.
So from my perspective, the sooner we can get that documentation, the better, because we're running out of time.
So a question for you, Adam, is what happens if the time clock runs out and this has not been resolved?
You would need to take action.
We would need to deny it.
Or approve it with conditions that the homeowners association reflects the change in language as proposed by Attorney Costa.
I wouldn't be willing to do that. I would want to see the document.
Well, the question then becomes what would be the grounds for denial?
Because the town does not want to own the retaining wall, which they are proposing. We don't have to approve a plan with that retaining wall. That's my biggest concern. The DPW has been very clear that they have issues with the retaining wall. And
The retaining wall has been moved outside the right of way, is my recollection.
I'm sorry?
So I believe the retaining wall was moved outside of the right of way.
When they showed a 35-foot right-of-way, it was, yeah.
Yeah, but not without, it's within the right-of-way.
It's within the 50-foot right-of-way.
So we can deny it based on that fact.
Yes, that you can.
Okay. All right. I'm comfortable with continuing or whatever we need to do.
The
But to the 25th, I'll request a continuance signature from them, which, again, if they do it, then that freezes the clock and we remain with however many days from when it gets recorded, and we can address moving forward from there. I'll request the revised HOA docs, and I know that my understanding was we're going to approach conservation about the alteration with the walls outside of the right-of-way.
Okay, but we haven't received any communication.
No, we haven't seen anything that they've done.
Okay.
To be clear, when they proposed the reduced roadway, did we vote not to approve that?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Yeah.
You voted to deny that waiver.
Okay.
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that was the last plan that we saw.
Right.
Okay.
It was.
Right. We don't have a different plan, and, my concern remains the proposed retaining wall. And I want it to be clear that the town will not own that retaining wall.
Correct. And again, I apologize. I thought that I had a conversation with someone about them actually moving the retaining wall, and maybe that wasn't the case. I just anticipated that would be what they did.
There's a plan on the back of this.
On the back of what?
On the back of the certificate of approval. So this is the draft?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So why is there a plan on the back of it?
What is the plan?
It doesn't look like it's got the reduced right-of-way either.
And it looks like it's got an extra building.
An extra what?
Buildings, doesn't it look like it has,
1, 2, 3, 4.
or is that, no. Oh, no, it's hard to see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, 4.
4. Adam, could you communicate with us just to let us know if the applicant does in fact approve the,
Yeah, if he sends the continuance, I'll just send Joe an email, let you know.
yep. And it's been a little while where this has been continued from the end of August, but from my recollection, much of the language that was to be incorporated in the homeowners association documentation was to clarify that those walls are not the town's responsibility. If the applicant moves forward and moves those walls outside the right-of-way, I don't know that that language is quite as critical. I don't think there were any other issues that necessitated that.
Well,
I think it's good language to have in there, because if they're supporting the right-of-way, even if they're outside of it, the fact that it calls it out gives the ability for the first time someone says, oh, look, the wall's crumbling, and calls the town to say, oh, yeah, we know they're there, they're on private property, here's a document that outlines who's responsible for it.
Okay.
right.
All right.
So I think it is important that we have that language in there. And I might be wrong, but I believed that the roadways are going to be owned by the association.
Well, and that's...
Until they bring it to town.
Until they come to the town, and therefore, if the town accepts the roadways, it is going to be very important that the ownership of the retaining wall is
Correct.
clear.
And at that point, I believe it will be existing non-conforming because, well, I don't know what the height is. But it's a structure at the edge, there's no setback from the right-of-way for that structure?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
because
it's right,
not it's not a structure coming from the ground up, it's a structure supporting. So if it's less than 10 feet tall, probably not.
I think it was.
All right. Well, at this point, I'll entertain a motion to continue to...
Motion to continue the hearing for 101 Pleasant Street to October 25th at 6:35 PM.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye for myself. Next item on our agenda is the decision for 101 Pleasant Street, which I think we've determined we will pass over at this point. Moving on to minutes approval for September 13th.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes of September 13th, 2021 for the regular meeting, and the minutes of 9/13/2021 for 1263 Reservoir Road and 435 Leominster Shirley Road.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And aye for myself. Committee reports. TCP Building Design Committee.
Yes, we had a Zoom meeting, and basically we were finalizing our 3 articles that we wanted to present, and at that meeting, the discussion centered around the first 2 articles being owned by that group, by the TCP Building Design, which of the first one being a report on our activities since the last town meeting, and the second one being a funding article for the design documents that were prepared for the $250,000, I believe. And then the third article would be what that group determined at that meeting we would be comfortable with having the select board write and present that article, because it would be a funding article for a whole nother $250,000 design documents for a new building. And the original charge for the TCP Building Design Committee was reuse of the land and the structure, and then we got it reworded at the last time meeting, thank you, to be reuse of the land. So there's just so many questions that we have as a group at this point. We're really not entirely sure about the wording for the third article, and if it's something that we really should be presenting at this stage. So that's.
So one of the articles will be the update.
Would be the update.
One, that'll be a TCP BDC article. One is to fund more study work.
No, the second one would be to fund what was presented at the last town meeting, which was the $23 million rebuild.
Okay. And that's a TCP
Keeping
article?
the building and rebuilding. and
Renovating.
Renovating it.
Yeah.
Renovation, yes.
Yep.
And then the third article would be a funding article as well to see if the town wants to spend another $250,000 to design a new building. And at the last meeting, we were presented with some hand sketches of some potential new building. It pretty much was a two-wing, with the front wing being parallel with Mass Ave and 2 stories, and the second wing being perpendicular to that, headed towards the new school, for school uses, and it'd be a single story. And the meeting, we had a large amount of discussion about the layout, and then we kind of realized that we were a little bit ahead of the cart. So. AgCom, we have not met. However, we do have 2 more farmers markets, the first 2 weeks in October.
Okay. Stormwater Task Force.
We have not met. Adam, you working on a meeting?
I am. I had some unintended interruptions in the last week, so I'm trying to circle back to that.
Okay.
Open Space.
We haven't met. We're going to meet in October. We didn't meet in September.
Okay. Capital Planning.
Capital Planning did meet. We reviewed the list of items that were funded and got status updates on items that were funded last year and items that were not incorporated into the plan last year and moved to 2023. So we just kind of basically went over where things were. I did relay to the group that one of the issues that the planning board is facing is that we don't have the necessary funding to do the 2 elements of the master plan, and maybe seeking at some point to do a full master plan, and whether or not that would be a capital planning project or whether it would be a separate standalone article remains to be seen. Just to give you guys a heads up, if we are going to submit for capital planning, we need to do that. The deadline is in October. Adam, do you know when the deadline is?
I
didn't bring my
I
notes.
don't remember seeing the packet come out, but,
Oh, no, it's been out.
okay, I'll have to go back through and I can
Okay.
if you want to.
So that's
My recommendation would be attack it from as many places as possible.
I would do both myself.
Yeah. So I can put that together.
Okay. The theory being that at town meeting, if it gets approved if it gets on capital plan and gets
We just
approved, then we
pass over.
don't
We pass
have
over.
to worry about an article.
Right, and then we pass over.
Write it and pass over it, but we would,
If it didn't get in part of the capital plan, we still have the opportunity to present our argument on town
Okay.
meeting floor.
and we would know if it was approved prior to the warrant closing, because the capital plan committee would have to
Yes.
approve it all.
Yes,
So,
yes.
all right.
So can we put that on our next agenda, Adam?
Yep.
And when does the warrant close?
For spring?
I had the whole timeline and I forgot to
Yeah.
grab it.
Oh, we're not.
Spring is
No, not
usually,
that fall.
it's usually March.
I was just going to say March.
Okay.
I think it depends based on the date of town meeting, and then it's back, I think, 45 days to the closing of the warrant.
Okay.
So that's something we should talk about, and if we're going to submit to capital plan, Adam, could you have that packet?
Yes, I
for-
can, yep.
Economic Development Committee.
We did not meet on Thursday.
Okay. And MRPC and MJTC are Mr. Brenner, who is not here this evening. Moving on to director's items, board warrant articles and special town meeting for the fall.
Sorry, I'm just finishing my note. So, you have 4 warrant articles in front of you. 2 of them are like silly housekeeping. Well, actually, no, the first one is silly housekeeping. We deleted retail commercial 3 years ago, and somehow it's still in our list of, in our type of districts, and the Village Center District, which has been around for 6 years, is not. So this is just a housekeeping of deleting retail commercial and replacing it with Village Center. That would be section 3.1, types of districts. Again, that's something I came across when we were doing this. Marjorie pointed out to me, I said, why don't we just clean that all up since we're doing it? The locations of districts, I'm gonna come back to. We'll do lot area. Again, it retained retail commercial. So I was thinking the easiest thing to do is delete retail commercial and insert limited business residential.
Oh, I know, but I don't have 4. I only have 3.
Oh, 1, 2, 3.
Which one don't you have?
I don't know yet. I have the one limited business residential.
There's 3-1, 3-2, 5-1, and
So she has
I don't have 3.
4-9.
No, I don't have 3-1.
3-1, 3-2, 4-9, and...
Yeah, I don't have 3-1.
3-1 is just,
Is just adding
I
the
think
It's
village.
just, it's
That's
replacing
the one you
retail
were talking
commercial.
about, and I couldn't find it, so, okay.
It's probably stuck to something else.
No, I checked, it's not. Somehow
So,
yes.
And, you know, the other thing in looking at this table for adding limited business residential, I can't for the life of me figure out why we have a required lot width for the building and a required lot frontage that are different. It doesn't make any sense to me, because it requires a consistent creation of pie-shaped lots, or like Tetris piece-shaped lots.
Right, they'd all have to be Vs.
Yes.
Go out. Yeah, I'd never
So,
understood that either.
I don't know if the board wants to consider amending the required lot width of the building to match the frontage.
75 through the building. What's the rationale behind that?
Yeah.
Because it means that you've got this much frontage and then you gotta go out.
So you either need to increase frontage or reduce lot width through the building, in my opinion. I don't know what the consensus of the group is.
well, I guess my initial response is that I'd like to try to keep it as simple as possible. I understand your observation, and I agree with you. It would seem to make more sense to make the required lot width through the building consistent with the frontage.
Because that way you're keeping at least a square front part of the lot. You're not getting 100 feet of frontage that dips down to 50 and then opens back out. You're getting, you know, some squareness to it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think.
The reason I bring it up is if we're gonna tinker with this table, we may as well do it all as one article.
So basically, we'd just be changing the column, the required lot width, to be the same as through the building, the same as the frontage.
That would be my recommendation, or change the frontage to match the lot width.
I don't want to mess with the frontage myself.
Fair enough. I don't disagree, I just,
So this came up because there was no required lot width through the building in that zone?
well, no, it came
There
up.
were no dimensional requirements.
Dimensional requirements for limited business residential. And I've never understood why we have a 175-foot lot width and 100 feet frontage. But if we're now going to go into the table, I think it's the opportunity to amend that.
Yep. I guess the only thing I would be concerned about, and I suspect that the intent with creating the table this way in the first place was to afford more privacy around residential structures. So if you require the lot width to be 175 feet at the location of the home, it's essentially requiring a greater setback on the sides of the yard.
On one side, I mean, because you can still build within 15 feet, and if two homes are both built on adjacent sides of the lot, you don't get any more benefit from it.
On one side or the other, you would get the benefit.
Theoretically, yeah.
Yeah. But, so if your required frontage, say in any of the residential districts is 100 feet, and then you reduce the required lot width through the center to the 100 feet, theoretically, if you had, your typical, colonial home that's 25 by 50 with a attached garage, you could be encroaching on the lot a little bit on the sides. You'd still be able to meet the 15 feet on side yards.
Yeah.
So you'd have 70 feet of usable space, but you can gobble that up pretty quickly if you have a two-car garage.
And then these are just minimums too, so.
Correct.
Yep.
I'll come right out and say it, I'm not comfortable making this decision tonight.
That's fine. It's something I just bring up. I completely understand. I kind of dropped it at the last second, and if it's just swapping retail commercial for limited business, I think that makes perfect sense, and we just move on and we think about that when we do a more comprehensive update to that section.
Yep. And then the other article is just to...
The Water Supply Protection District.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, the Water District superintendent came to see me and indicated that they would like to, or they have updated their watershed protection map, and they would like us to do so in conjunction with them and our water supply protection bylaw. So, I don't know if you can see the screen in the back of the room. I'm trying to zoom in as close as I can. This goofy hump here onto Kilburn Street is the change. So it used to come down Lancaster, and their new review includes this section of Kilburn Street.
How about the new well down at Keating's?
Oh, that was apparently on their 2009 map, which we, for whatever reason, don't have, but it's all here south of Leominster Shirley Road.
Well, honestly, Adam, I was a little disappointed that I didn't get the 2021 map either. I mean, we're seeing it now.
I only had a hard copy until today.
Okay. I'm not unhappy with you at all. I would like to see the whole package, especially if we're going to present it to town meeting as a warrant article. I've had
I had a big hard copy map, and I had intended to be there today.
Okay, that's fine.
To view it, but, so it does include this here for the Keating well, and this little hump here, and the rest of it is the same as we currently have. So the only change to that bylaw is replacing the name of the map with the map as it's shown here.
The date of the map.
Well, the map title actually changed too.
Okay, so this isn't correct, what's on, what we have for
Lunenburg
hand.
Water District Aquifer Protection Zones dated July 2021.
No?
It's the other one.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so that one.
Okay.
And I actually, just today, was looking at it and realized that I didn't say anything about amending the zoning map, so I've changed the article to actually read, so it would change the delineation of the map as I depicted to you, and with additions underlined, modified, and to modify the zoning map to reflect the new water supply protection district boundaries depicted on the same. So it would both modify this bylaw and the zoning map to show the new water supply protection district boundaries.
As a side note to this discussion, could we update the GIS to accurately reflect?
That would also be included in this.
Okay. I know we don't
So
need a,
once they update the zoning map, they then have the file, and that gets uploaded to the GIS.
okay.
Same company does all of that updating.
Yep. I think it just would make it a lot easier for applicants.
Absolutely. Yep, and that doesn't require town meeting approval. That's just an administrative, hey, you're doing this, also do this, please.
Yep.
So 4.9 is just changing the reference to...
Correct, that's correct.
And then 3.2 is updating the reference to our...
To the new zoning map that will be created through 4.9.
So is that the discrepancy here? Because the Water Protection
Yes,
District...
that is correct.
...was 2009, and then ours...
That's correct.
Was it that long ago?
Apparently.
Wow. I didn't think it was.
Who was talking?
Pack. Okay, so in 3.2, we're referencing the bylaw map,
Correct.
and then in 4.9, we're referencing,
Referencing the water district's map.
okay.
But the bylaw map is dated November 16th, 2021?
That's
Correct, and
what it
then,
would be if town meeting adopts, so that would be the last one that we do. So if the water supply protection district gets updated and the map gets updated, then November 16th would be the date of the map that we would want to reference
zoning map.
zoning.
Right.
And then later in that paragraph, it refers to the water supply protection district described in 4.9, which has the map dated
Which
in
just has the
July.
map dated in July 2021.
Which exists.
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Which confused me at first because in my mind, the map dates have to line up, but
And November 16th is a realistic date to get the revised bylaw map?
Well, that would be the
that's
date of
town meeting.
That's the date of town meeting?
So town meeting adopts it, so that becomes the date of the map.
Yep.
We wouldn't have the map on November 16th, but that would be the date that we place on the map.
Which makes total sense.
It doesn't make
Hey,
any
it's the
sense.
government.
So we're going to put it, something that doesn't exist, okay.
So as long as the board is okay with what you have in front of you as changes, I will go ahead and submit those to the town manager tomorrow.
I'm sorry, I missed the last part of what you said. You'll go ahead and submit them.
To the town manager for inclusion on the warrant.
Okay.
To close this tomorrow.
And then we'll have an opportunity to review that prior to town
Well,
meeting.
you'll have a public hearing, yes.
Yep.
On October 25th,
Okay,
which is already advertised.
all right.
And I'm assuming we're gonna have nice, pretty, full-size maps for all the public to see?
Pretty full-size maps. I'll have a stack of 11 by 17 maps for everyone to see.
Good enough.
So do you need a vote, or?
Yes, because you are the one submitting.
So,
Vote to submit them as submitted to you.
I would vote to submit the 4 warrant articles for inclusion in the warrant for November 16th, 2021.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Excellent. Moving on to traffic counts.
So Marjorie dug out and did include in your packets the traffic count cycle and locations that are done annually, or on a 4-year cycle, I shouldn't say annually, by MRPC, and Leominster Shirley Road and the east and west of Fort Pond Road are included as part of their annual, or their quadrennial counting program. Howard Street is not, and I have not heard back from them on if or when they'll be requesting additional locations for counting.
So we're currently in year 4, just to be clear. If you look at the letter is dated 2019. So
Yes.
we're in year 4.
That was, 2019 was the last time they requested.
If there are additional counts that you would like to see done, please feel free to contact me. Additional counts are not guaranteed, but we do make every effort to accommodate 4 special requests per community. So,
I would make those requests, probably, West Townsend Road at Howard Street, New West Townsend Road at Howard Street, and then Howard Street.
So Paula's assertion that we're in year 4 was correct, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, that was my understanding as well.
So then we're looking at 2 more years before we'll get the traffic counts in year 2,
Correct.
which are not really gonna help us for the,
But they're only 2 years old currently.
do we have the 2019 counts?
they would be available in the MRPC.
I was gonna say, I haven't had a chance to look for them, but my guess would be if they were done, they're available at MRPC. They tend to have a...
Leominster Shirley Road was done, so that would be interesting to look at.
Yes.
Well, and I think that would be 2020, correct? Because it's year 2, so they would have done, 2019 would be year 1.
No, 2019 is year 2, according to the letter that's attached.
So in
Okay.
April,
This year, we are on year 2. That was in 2019.
Yep.
Okay.
So we have traffic counts for Leominster Shirley Road.
No.
I think that would be information very helpful to the outside traffic engineer that's looking at that project.
to add to their...
And I mean, I
year
expect
numbers.
that's what GPI used.
Well,
Yes.
let's not suspect, let's just make
Well,
sure
they
that
do tend, yes, but they do tend to go to the regional planning agency.
but all I'm asking is that our outside engineer be advised that in 2019, MRPC did traffic counts and that we point them to the site. That's what I'm requesting.
I don't see them on their website.
So we can contact Sherry and ask her for those counts.
Or the traffic engineer can.
Yeah, either one. I just want to make sure that we get the data to the reviewing engineer. So you were saying West Townsend Road, Howard Street, what else, Ed?
Road.
I'm sorry?
And New West Townsend Road. So each end of Howard Street and then Howard Street itself.
And I guess we would probably want to clarify the location on New West Townsend Road and West Townsend. In other words, do you
Yeah.
want to be on the
I think
southerly
you'd want to be
side?
south of Howard Street on both, and then do counts east and west of the project location.
Okay. Because theoretically, if you're either on the east or the west side, you have that data, and if you capture the data on one side of the intersection, you can
Extrapolate.
reason.
And I mean, if they're going north, most of that traffic from Howard Street is going to be going south.
Yep.
And it's just in general inference.
Yep. Okay.
So you will reach out to
I'll reach
Sherry
out to
Dean
Sherry.
or Brad Harris?
Yep.
And if you are able to get the traffic counts for, I would like us to have the traffic counts for Lemons and Shirley Road. Assuming you guys would too.
I can probably dig them out, because I think they presented it to us, didn't they? I mean, when they take them, don't they give it to the planning board?
I don't think so.
No? I thought I remembered seeing something. Okay.
Anything else on traffic counts?
Nope.
So tomorrow night, in the room you're currently sitting in, Uma Flowers will be holding their community outreach meeting. So it will be available in person and, if I'm not mistaken, via Zoom. If you are interested in participating or viewing, you can do so.
Do you have the Zoom information?
I'm actually just looking that up right now.
Okay. It would just be helpful to
It would be
share
super
for
helpful.
anybody.
So there it is. It is posted as a select board agenda. So if you're interested in viewing Uma Flowers, the Zoom ID number is 909-174-0347. Again, 909-174-0347. There is an agenda posted on the town calendar under the select board. There is a link to the Zoom meeting right there for anyone interested. Again, this is the opportunity for those who are concerned, who have questions, who support, to come and voice their questions, concerns, support. The proponent, Uma Flowers, will be presenting about their company, the licenses they're seeking, and answering any questions pertinent to the operation of their business and the proposed location.
And do we have any information on the project that people can access on the planning board page? So we don't have any, we have no plans?
Nothing's been submitted formally to the planning board in regard to this.
Okay.
And the location is Donnelly's Tavern, the corner of Young's Road and Summer Street. I don't even know if they plan to reuse the existing building, if they plan to tear it down and build a new building. I just know that that's the location that they have outlined as where they intend to go.
Okay.
And my understanding is it's only a retail operation.
Okay. Master plan update.
So at the last meeting, the board inquired as to cost of having a full master plan done. I did reach out to colleagues across the state, and I would say the average price that I'm seeing is $135,000 to $200,000, depending on community size, what bells and whistles or additional studies were requested within. I did get a couple of lower outline numbers. Most of those used either grad programs or regional planning agencies, and the few that did do that came back with some mixed results. So I think if the board is interested, it would be best to probably shoot for $150,000 or so in total monies in order to have a competitive amount in order to attract a firm that would be able to do so in a relative short order.
So you said 150 in total monies? So 150
Correct.
minus what we've still got?
That would be, I don't think that the community or anyone would support spending $200,000 on a master plan. I don't think our needs are that extensive, but I think that being in the middle there of around 150 gives us a cushion. Some of these were 1 or 2 years old. Some of them were more recent in the last couple of months.
I'm not sure we'll get much support for that.
I don't know that we will either, but if that's what the board's desire is, I mean, we've already found that the 43 isn't going to get us much of anything.
43, I thought we have 43 left?
Yes, we do.
7 was spent on the population study.
I mean, it's a little more than 43, but it was 6 and change on the population study.
Well, you won't know till you ask, and I think...
We have to ask. I mean, it's mandated that we have a master plan.
Yep, state law.
Yep.
So, and we don't have one. So,
Yeah.
we've been talking about it for years. I think we go to the town and make our plea and explain that this is mandated and that this is the plan that guides the town and development in the town, and it's necessary.
Yep.
And if they say no, they say no.
Well, then the question comes up, well, how well did the last master plan guide and develop the town when we're basically going to be regurgitating a good amount of that?
I don't know that we're going to be regurgitating a lot of that.
Well, a lot of the goals still...
I think a lot of the goals, I would agree with you, but the current state of the town has changed drastically. So, and, you know, the two elements that we were looking at, which was land use and facilities, those still are my top priorities, and we really need to get them done.
Yep. And Mr. Torgensen and Mr. Brenner aren't here tonight to give us their opinions, but I think just based on feedback that we've received over past meetings from those individuals, we can assume that they would be supportive. I know that at our last meeting, Mr. Brenner was very concerned about smart development, and that's part of the master plan, is identifying those issues and steps we can take to address them. So,
Where they would be appropriate, the areas that we target, you know, I think we absolutely need to go through this and do this update.
Yep.
And I think we should do a two-pronged approach. I think we should put it on the capital plan, and then, in the event that it's not included, we submit a warrant article.
I agree. So at this point, do we want to take a vote on sending it to capital planning?
Sending it, and then the figure, just going with the figure that was suggested?
Well, I think, based on the numbers that Adam received, between 135 and 200,000, knowing we have roughly 43 left to
So we need 107.
thereabouts, yeah.
And if you ask for 110, it's round, and
Yep.
So I'm happy to make that motion. I don't know. I think it makes sense, but I don't know how Mr. Allison feels about it.
No, I'd second that, sure.
All right, I would make a motion that the planning board submit a request for $110,000 for a master plan update to capital planning.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I for myself. Excellent. Our meeting schedule, all meetings are held here at Town Hall, 6:30 PM. Our next meeting is October 25th due to the Columbus Day holiday. Ongoing items, Pondview Commons, any feedback from Mass
that's
Housing?
what I've heard.
Okay.
I just want to relay, because I wasn't aware of it, I had asked at the last meeting for a copy of the packet. The packet, if anyone's interested, is actually on the front page of the website, and you can see the correspondence that was sent by town council, and then the entire package sent by the town manager.
Excellent.
On lunenburgmass.gov?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right on the front page.
Thanks.
It's in the news items.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have any public comment from Zoom?
There's no public here.
Okay. And none here either. Any board comments or concerns?
Nope.
A lot of them, but I'm nothing to talk about.
Not for this evening.
Right.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye for myself.
Please sign the paper plans for the A&R.
Will do.